Welcome to another S&P 500 analysis. Today is November 19, 2022. The S&P 500 rallied after a softer PPI reading, but the news on the Russian missile hitting Poland damping the rally, and the S&P 500 was unable to hold the gain from the PPI rally. Next Wednesday, the FOMC minute will be released. So will that cause a rally or a sell-off? In this video, we'll look at the price action of the S&P 500 along with the other major market indexes, the market sentiment, market internals, 10-year yield, US dollar, oil, silver, and the gold market, and see what they are telling us. Stay tuned. Looking at this weekly chart of the S&P 500, as you can see, the range was 122 points. And out of the entire up and down for the whole week, it just ended down 0.69% or a little bit more than 27 points. It is still continuing this one-time framing up and still close between this 10-week and the 40-week moving average, and still in this lower high, lower low type of price pattern. But it is approaching this trend line here, and a lot of is keeping an eye on this trend line, so beware of some price reaction when it gets there. And we'll take a look at the price action of the S&P 500 in a little bit more detail later on. Looking at the sentiment chart here, as you can see, the VIX is still inside of this 20-30 zone. It has been coming down slowly, sitting at 23.12 as of Friday. And the put-call ratio, it did went up to this above this one level a couple of days ago last week, but it did start coming back down and getting back to the 0.75. So the market participant are showing, still showing some caution, but as not as fearful as back here in the middle of October. But there seems to be a little bit of a mixed bag of emotion on risk on and risk off. You can see here, we actually got a little bit of a risk on, and then here we got risk off. So right now, there seems to be leaning a little bit more on the risk on side. And looking at this up-down volume ratio chart on Wednesday, when we saw that sell-off, we did see a little bit more of a downside activity there. But on Tuesday, the PPI rally, we also saw just a little bit about 3-1 in favor of the up volume. But on on Wednesday, when we see the sell-off, we actually see a little bit over 6-1 in favor of the down volume. So definitely there are more jittery on the downside, and on the upside also looking at the daily advanced decline, we did get a little bit of a broader market participation on Tuesday on that PPI rally, but on Wednesday and Thursday, we also see a little bit more of a downside on the advanced decline, more declining issue than advancing issues. Now, one of the things that we are noticing that is a little bit different right now is that we are seeing a little bit more of new 52-week high than 52-week low. And as you can see throughout last week, only on Thursday, we saw more new 52-week low than 52-week high. Other than that, it's pretty much on the 52-week high, just a little bit above or more than the 52-week low. Now we can see that the cumulative advanced decline line on the New York Stock Exchange is really not accelerating. It's kind of pretty much flat. And you see that the S&P 500 is also pretty much flat, just kind of chopping around. So nothing extraordinary here to see. And looking at the NASDAQ up-down volume ratio, we also see a little bit over 3-1 on the upside on Tuesday, and likewise on the downside on Wednesday. So it's not much, to write home about. And last week is just a sort of a bouncing, choppy type of week. We did see a little bit more market participation on the Tuesday rally, but we also saw on the downside also on Wednesday sell-off. The NASDAQ market still have more new 52-week low than 52-week high. And similarly to the New York Stock Exchange, the NASDAQ market, the NASDAQ cumulative advanced decline is also pretty much flat. Likewise, we see the NASDAQ 100 index on a closing basis is pretty much flat as well. So as far as the sentiment and the internal, not much really happened except that we are seeing a little bit less fear from the market participants. But other than that, with the Thanksgiving holiday coming up, we'll likely see a little bit of volatility, and especially when we see the FOMC minute release on Wednesday. Here, looking at the 10-year yield, we see the 10-year yield kind of been holding this 3.7.5% a little bit. So we'll see what it come back up to this 4% here. Seems to have found a little bit of a support down here. In the US dollar, it also came down to this 106 area and got a little bit of a bounce. So again, we'll see would it be able to come back up to this 109 or would it continue to come down and test this 103 area here, come down to this 104, 103. And for crude oil, it came down to test almost down to the 76, 77 area. It held this trend line here, so we'll see would it be able to bounce back up to this $88 level. As the dollar is weakening, we should see the oil come up a bit also. So we'll see would it come back up to this 88 or come down and test this 76, 70 or 77 again, and possibly test this low here down at the 75 area. And as the dollar firming up a little bit, we saw silver also pull back a little bit from this 22. So we'll see would it be able to hold this 20, and if it's unable to hold a 20, we could see it come back down and test this 1879, 1880 area. Basically this 1880, $19 area. And same thing for gold. We saw gold came up to close to this 1800 level and pull back. So right now we'll see would it be able to hold this 1725 area here, this 1720 area. So if we could hold this area and especially this pivot high here near the 1737 and a half or so, then we could see it possibly push back up and get above this 1800 and near this 1823, this pivot or this zone here. So we'll see what it continue to push up or pull back to this 1725 area. Now let's take a look at the indexes, starting with the S&P 500 on this daily chart here. As you can see last week, this is the range here, and the price is pretty much closed inside a range. And also, it seems to be stuck at this area here near this 39.50 and 39.65. Seems to find some acceptance here. But again, the next week weekly range, upper range is pricing in to be somewhere at the 4,050 and 4,034.40. And the lower expected range is the 3896.30 and 3880. So right now the market seems to be pricing this gap here, pricing in to eventually get this gap fill, and also this trend line here indicating that the market most likely will try to come up to test this 4100 level. So we still could see some more buyers on the upside, and maybe after we tag this trend line, then we see a little bit of a reversal back down. Now, remember next week, we're going to have the FOMC minute on Wednesday, and it's going to be a light week because a lot of people probably have taken off for Thanksgiving holiday. So beware of the volatility, especially when there's light volume, light trading. So beware of that. Now, if we see it on the downside, then look for this thing to eventually come down and fill this CPI gap. I think, we eventually will see that. So it's just a matter of which gap it will fill first, this gap or the CPI gap. Now, we got a pop on Tuesday with the PPI report, but then the Russian missile landed on Poland that kind of put a little damper on that. But it kind of recovered and unable to follow through, though, on the following day or the following sessions. And you see that it just kind of been hovering inside of this range here, this balance area. Now, also notice that as of Friday's close, the S&P 500 is still, more than 17% or under 18% below the all-time high. And I also have a major move here on this symmetry move, and it's push it up to the 4117 area. So that could be also in confluence with this 4100. So, I mean, that's just a little bit of a projection. I look at these horizontal level have probably have more significant than these Fibonacci extension because it's very subjective of where you find it the pivot point. I mean, we could have a symmetry move here as well. So in any case, we're going to be watching 4100 on the upside and down here at this 3800 on the downside. And looking at the Nasdaq 100, you can see that it also closed inside of the weekly expected move. Now, next week, the expected move on the upper range is somewhere between 12,010 and 11,946. And the lower range is between 11,408 and 11,340. And looking at this, it seems to be the market is pricing in this 1200 level, this pivot high here on the upside, and somewhere down here near this low here on the downside. So we could see that it could be a bounce around between this 11,500 and the 12,000 area. So keep an eye on that. Again, basically could see a little bit more upside bias before the end of the year and possibly come up to this level here, somewhere around 12,300 area. And I do have a little bit of a expected move or major move here between, one could call this a little bit of an inverted head and shoulder pattern, or basically just a consolidation trading band major move. And that pushes up to this 12,700 level on a 100% major move. But the 618 is near the 12,300 area. Looking at the Russell 2000 here, you see the Russell 2000 almost came up to this 100% major move at this 1909 area, 1910 area. And that is essentially this bottoming pattern here, major move. So right now it seems to be pulling back and it also tried to sneak up above the trend line here. So it seems to got a little bit of a rejection. Wouldn't be surprised to see would it be able to come up and try to test it one more time before it come back down and possibly test this support area here, this pivot breakout of this double bottom pattern near the 1776. So we'll keep an eye on that to see will this either push up and get above this 1935 and possibly get into this 1950 and maybe into this pivot high here, or come down and test this 1776. And for the Dow Jones Transportation, the Dow Jones Transportation broke out of this trend line and got above this 14,500 zone here and unable to hold it, and now it's pulling back below this trend line here. So we're going to be watching the Dow Jones Transportation to see would it come back down and pull back to this area here at 13,000 area, basically testing this pivot or these support resistance level here, or would it break this trend line once again and pushes up and get above the 15,000 into this pivot high here between the 15,500 and 15,000, so it's somewhere around 15,300 area. And here looking at the Dow Jones Industrial, you see the Dow Jones Industrial closed the week pretty much unchanged here. We're basically looking for this thing to see would it be able to get up and take out this pivot high and continue to move up to this symmetry move, which I have somewhere around 34,600 area here. So that's basically what I'm watching on the upside, is to see would it get out of this, take out this pivot high and come up to this major move near this 34,500, 34,600 area. On the downside is basically pulling back down to this 32,000 level. And that's the prior support here when it pulled back, and also the pivot point for this symmetry movement. And for the New York Stock Exchange Composite, notice that it also touched the 100% major move here, and that is this sort of a double bottom type of a pattern here, and it came up to this 15,430. So right now it came back down and tested this near this 15,000 zone here, for potential support, and seems to got a little bit of a bounce. So we're going to see will it continue to push up and get above this trend line here, or come up and tag this trend line near this 15,600, and see would it be able to break through it, or would it come back and pull back down to this below this 15,000 and try to come back down to this pivot here at this double bottom pivot near the 14,400. So those are the indexes. Thank you for watching, and be sure to smash that thumbs up to help me promote this video, and stay safe.